call on that one.
Yeah.
But Doug, let me ask you. I mean,
Sure.
Mueller actually did go to lengths to say this does not exonerate the president.
Yes.
Is that stepping too far? Is that injecting an opinion? Or
that was interesting because let me hit the rewind button just for a minute. A couple of days before this letter came out, I was saying that you were hearing a lot of, political sound bites, which would be, and it's interesting, Bob raised it, he's so right. One was going to be the only reason there's no indictment is because of these DOJ memos out of the Office of Legal Counsel, implying that he could have been. The other big sound bite is just Law 101, which is the evidence wasn't there to convict, implying that, But then when the report came out, two things, and then I'll get to what you just asked me. One, the exoneration, as it were, on collusion was crystal clear. It wasn't, there wasn't sufficient evidence. It wasn't, it's because he's the president.
No, in fact, I thought it was
clear.
I mean, I thought it was an interesting point is that it not only did that, but given the opportunity to essentially collude, the president and his team rebuffed it several times. I mean, that was pretty close.
But then on the obstruction, my colleagues are exactly right. I mean, it's hard when you really drill down on the letter, studying it, sort of from a legal perspective. As Bob says, and he explained to me earlier, there is coordination and oversight from Main Justice with the special counsel. That's number one. But to your specific question, and boy, it's a good one, why would they have said it doesn't exonerate him? It's like give everybody a little to work with, in a sense, maybe. I know that sounds a little silly.
Should they have answered it just sort of in a yes-no definitive way, or was that going too far, or what were they trying to signal by saying it doesn't exonerate the president?
I tend to think that was something of an unwarranted comment. But I think, having thought about this, and it is a curiosity that he punted, seems to be the word of the day, about obstruction. But I think it could be, and this is speculation, but it's based on my experience having worked for Ken Starr in the Whitewater investigation, that there was a division of opinion among the staff at the special counsel's office about whether it was a yes or a no. Ken Starr, for example, would always insist upon collaboration and getting some sort of a consensus amongst the primarily experienced prosecutors who were on the staff. And if he didn't get a consensus, then that really was more a time to go back and re-examine the issue, usually, rather than okay, Ken is going to make the decision. Here, it could be that there really was a divided jury with regard to that question, and therefore he sent it to the Attorney General. Also, I would add that it's interesting that Barr is a confirmed Attorney General nominated by the President. Sessions, who was his predecessor, of course, had recused himself. So if it had been with Sessions still there, then Rod Rosenstein would have had to catch that hot potato and make the decision, which perhaps also suggested that maybe Mueller waited until there was a duly appointed and confirmed Attorney General. I
think that's right. I mean, I think the country is very fortunate that we have in the position as a confirmed Attorney General someone who has served in that position with distinction previously, and that it came along at a moment where it was important, I think, and in the public interest that the department speak with one voice. Now, I don't know what the internal deliberations were, and I don't want to speculate about this, but, with regard to obstruction, the legal case, of course, is complicated by the fact that it's the President of the United States, and how do the obstruction statutes apply to him, right? The President's not above the law, but he does present a unique set of circumstances because he is the President. And as a factual matter, and as I think Attorney General Barr correctly pointed out in the letter, it presents some factual complications as well, not the least, as the President has explained. How can I obstruct an investigation that didn't have any merit to begin with? Now, we all know, from a prosecutor's perspective, that technically one could still obstruct an investigation that ultimately is not found to have had merit or results in criminal charges. But that's the technical legal answer. Sure, it's possible to do that. The question is, as a practical matter, would you charge a sitting president of the United States with obstruction on, first of all, a questionable legal theory as it applies to his personnel decisions, and second, and beyond that, and maybe even more importantly, would you do so on such a flimsy case in which the underlying act that you're supposedly obstructing isn't a crime to begin with? So,
well, and he also, I mean, he also at least said in the letter that the president was doing many of these things out there in the public. It wasn't as if there was some crafty thing that was happening behind the scenes, but I mean, the Democrats now say that there are more questions than it answers. I look at that and I kind of almost giggle because I feel like
I think that's overstated, to say the least.
Yeah,
the formulation is so interesting because.
And that's a political determination,
yes,
by the way. And that's
right. If you're arguing,
that's not a legal determination.
If you're arguing something in your favor, the argument is, this is very simple. It says there's no collusion. It says we debated obstruction. We kicked it back to the AG, and he found there was no obstruction. Have a nice day, end of analysis. If you want to muck it up, then you make it really complicated. Oh, there are tons of questions here. Not really.